Hello, I'm Darcy Bits, and it's time for another Pauper Commander review, this time for Lorwyn Eclipsed. Pauper Commander, for those who don't know, is played with 99 commons in your deck and 1 uncommon creature in your command zone, no matter if they're legendary or not. Which is a good thing for us because this is the first time since Tarkir Dragonstorm that the set has absolutely no uncommon legends. I always prefer to focus on non-legendary uncommons for Pauper Commander anyway, because it's something unique to the format that you can't do in full-on Commander. With that in mind, let's start with number 10, Thoughtweft Imbuer. Thoughtweft Imbuer is a 4-mana white 0/5 Kithkin Advisor. It has whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of Kithkin you control. This is effectively the same thing as saying all of your Kithkin have Exalted, which I think is a really fun thing to play around with. You'll get the most value if you have a wide board and then 1 evasive creature that can fly in. There's a decent number of Kithkin with flying, but this is number 10 on the list because ultimately I don't think it's that powerful, and it is 4 mana. It's just a pretty interesting one to start us off with. Number 9, Morkant's Loyalist. Morkant's Loyalist is a 3-mana black and green 3/2 elf warrior with other elves you control get +1/+1, and when this creature dies, return another target elf card from your graveyard to your hand. Lords are always powerful, giving +1/+1 to each of your creatures. If you're going all elves, this is +1/+1 to everything. And when this dies, getting to pull back another elf is nice. It's certainly not why you're running the card, but it's good. It certainly makes the card better than if it wasn't there at all. What really this card has going for it is that it is probably the new best black and green elf commander. If you want to play mono green elves, there's better options. But for black green, I didn't see a better pick if you wanted to have a true elf kindred deck. Number 8, Deep Channel Duelist. Deep Channel Duelist is a 2-mana white and blue 2/2 merfolk soldier. It reads at the beginning of your end step, untap target merfolk you control, and other merfolk you control get +1/+1. Just like Morkant's Loyalist, this is a lord. It's going to buff all of your merfolk. Once again, there are other options that do something like this in a merfolk deck, except Deep Channel Duelist is the only one who's going to let you run blue-white. Blue is the main merfolk color. In fact, there is another merfolk in this set that's mono-white that I would have loved to have as a commander, but there's just not enough white cards to make it viable. That said, getting access to white is still really useful for your merfolk game plan. Notably, one of my favorite merfolk of all times is mono-white, and usually doesn't get to make the list for a merfolk deck, but it's actually really strong, especially with someone like this. Stony Brook Schoolmaster is a merfolk that when it becomes tapped, creates a 1/1 merfolk. Being able to tap it down, have at the end of your turn untap it, and then tap it down some other way again if you have a free tap outlet is very strong. And there's a lot of merfolk that care about tapping and untapping that you can play around with in this space with this commander. Once again, it's just a little extra. You're probably mostly caring about that second mode, just being a lord, getting +1/+1, and providing yourself the blue-white color identity so you have access to more options. Number 7, Boggart Cursecrafter. Boggart Cursecrafter is a 2-mana black and red 2/3 goblin warlock with death touch. It reads, whenever another goblin you control dies, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. Now there's a ton of these Blood Artist-like effects in black. Not so many in black-red, but there are a lot in black. And those tend to have deal damage and have you gain life. So what makes this more valuable? Well, it's more narrow than most because it's only caring about goblins. But if you're in a full goblin deck, that's all of your creatures anyway. And it's just some of the best stats we've seen from this effect, period. Having Death Touch is really nice, even though you usually don't want to be blocking with your commander because you don't want to lose their ability. But with a 2/3 body, they can actually participate in the rest of the game and not just sit at the sidelines waiting to get pinged down like a Blood Artist would. Once again, having access to black and red, not just mono black, gives you a lot more options, especially because it's a goblin deck. Also, just from a flavor and fun standpoint, this is such a cool card. If they didn't care about specifically goblins and it was just any creature, it'd be less interesting, even if technically more powerful. Number 6, Nightmare Sower. Nightmare Sower is a 4-mana black 2/3 fairy assassin with flying and lifelink. They read whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature. This is Dream Spoilers, or Dream Spoilers Witches, whichever you prefer. Except because -1/-1 counters are a theme of this set, they're actually placing -1/-1 counters, not just giving -1/-1 until end of turn. This can be a huge difference. So often you can only shrink something and not kill it, but this, it's going to be able to add up over multiple turns if necessary, making it an incredibly oppressive commander. And with a 2/3 flying lifelink body, it is way more than just its static text. Number 5, Voracious Tome Skimmer. Voracious Tome Skimmer is a 3-mana hybrid black and blue 2/3 fairy rogue. It has flying and reads, whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, you may pay 1 life. If you do, draw a card. Now, we just saw the last one, and I still think it's very good, but this one is ahead of it because, well, while it's offering a very different thing, it is rewarding you for the same stuff, except you have access to blue to be able to do it much more reliably. Also, the payoff is card draw instead of shrinking your opponent's stuff. Card draw is often just the best thing that you can be doing, letting you fill your hand with all the tools to be doing whatever else you want to be doing. Oftentimes, these spells you're casting on your opponent's turn are kill spells anyway, making the -1 counters possibly a little redundant. Whereas here, you are continuing to fill your hand, meaning you don't even need to worry about having cantrips on your opponent's turn to keep your hand full. You can just be casting murders or whatever else you're looking for. Once again, having a flying 2/3 body is also relevant for the rest of the game, although here we are missing out on that lifelink. Number 4, Twin Flame Travelers. Twin Flame Travelers is a 4-mana blue and red 3/3 elemental sorcerer with flying. They have, if a triggered ability of another elemental you control triggers, it triggers an additional time. This is probably the most interesting line of text on a commander that we've seen in the set. I am very excited for what people will be able to do with this. However, it's only getting number 4 because I don't think there's enough yet to really do something interesting with this commander. There are actually a lot of blue and red common elementals, but they still don't really do that much. For the most part, they're going to be either doing damage or buffing their stats temporarily to help you do more damage. I think that could do a lot, but it really lends yourself towards this aggro game plan that is pretty difficult to pull off in a multiplayer game. Now, if you're assessing this for 1v1 Pauper Commander, I think this is probably the top pick of the entire set. But in multiplayer, it's a lot harder to actually punch through. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some bounce effects in elementals, there are some card draw effects. There just isn't enough to push it up to that first slot, in my opinion. Number 3, Boldwyr Aggressor. Boldwyr Aggressor is a 5-mana 2/5 red giant warrior. It has double strike, and other giants you control have double strike. Now, maybe this is a bit of a pet choice for me. I'm more interested in effects that do interesting things as opposed to are obviously strong. And I think giving all your giants double strike is really, really cool. Now, it is 5 mana. It's going to take a while to come down, but that's kind of okay. If you spend the early game building up your giants, you only have to play this on turn 5, and all of your giants have double strike. You don't have to actually attack with Boldwyr Aggressor to be getting the value. In fact, probably your other giants are better statted for double strike because this one's balanced around always having it, whereas those cards won't be. I've wanted to build a giant commander deck for a long time. I've thought about maybe like Thundercloud Shaman from the original Lorwyn, but it's never really come together. Here, I think we're finally gonna do it, so I don't know, maybe it's just pie in the sky of me, but I'm excited to try Boldwyr Aggressor personally. Number 2, Reaping Willow. Reaping Willow is a 4-mana hybrid white-black 3/6 Treefolk Cleric. It has lifelink, and this creature enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. You can then spend 1 and a hybrid white-black, remove 2 counters from this creature, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. This is a lot of stuff to unpack. As a general body, it is a 4-mana, effectively 1/4 that has lifelink, which is not great. But you can spend 2 to remove 2 of its counters to resurrect something, and now it is a 3/6 with lifelink. Again, that's effectively 6 mana for a 3/6, not that impressive. But if you can continuously put counters on Reaping Willow and then continuously remove them, this is such a cool, fiddly little engine for resurrecting things. Is it possible to go infinite with this? Well, yes, there's definitely some options. I don't know if they're good ideas, but I don't think it matters. I think Reaping Willow is just giving you enough value that you're going to be able to run people over anyway. You definitely need to build your deck in a very unique way to make this card work, but that's always the case with my favorite commanders. I want to see you have to do something weird to make your commander tick and then be rewarded for it with extra power than if you just ran something generically good. Reaping Willow, I think, does fit that bill and is going to be really strong despite needing to invest those 2 mana and 2 counters every time you want to pull it off. Before I move on to number 1, I do want to shout out the honorable mention of Pestered Wellguard. I think this card's really cool. It's a 4 mana 3/2 Merfolk Soldier that when it becomes tapped makes a 1/1 flyer. There's also technically ways of going infinite with this, but once again, a lot of hoops. And just the value is maybe not enough. It's good. I like it. It's just not breaking top 10, unfortunately. There's also, if you really like a challenge, a cycle of Vivid creatures. Vivid is a new ability word from the set that means this ability cares about the number of colors among permanents you control. As a format that uses color identity, your commander is going to set a hard limit on how many colors you can get easily. That is why I'm calling it a challenge. I've seen a lot of people discuss how they're excited to build within this weird space of how do I get these extra colors through tokens or effects so that I can get the most out of a Vivid commander. If you're up for the challenge, I think Glisserbairn, Kith Keeper, and Shine Striker are the 3 that have the biggest payoff to make it worth it, but still, this is not something that I think is going to actually be good most of the time, but it could be pretty fun. And with that, let's move on to the number 1 best new Pauper Commander from Lorwyn Eclipsed. Number 1, Moon Vigil Adherents. Moon Vigil Adherents are a 4 mana 0/0 green elf druid. They have trample, and this creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control and each creature card in your graveyard. This effect we have seen individually on a lot of cards. Either this creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control, or this creature gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. And both of those effects I think have been extremely effective. This is just doing both together. The only downside is that Moon Vigil Adherents is mono green, and oftentimes we're seeing green white or green black for those effects that give you a little bit extra option. But being able to count both your battlefield and your graveyard simultaneously is going to make this an incredibly powerful threat, and it's getting +1/+1, not just +1 power like some effects do, and it comes bundled with trample. You don't have to supply that yourself. This is going to be an incredibly strong Voltron commander that can punch through for those lethal commander damage wins very consistently. And that's it for Lorwyn Eclipsed. I'm very excited to see what people do with these cards now that they're here. Have a good night, everyone. I've been Darcy Bits. I'll see you next time.